Internet, hello you lovelies, and welcome to This Week in Comics. If you're new to this page, I read 50 to 60, and in this case, 70 comics a week, and I break down the 9 comics I thought were best, and I try to lean a little bit more towards the more approachable books. Books at the beginning of their arc, books that you can just pick up having never read a comic, and I give you a breakdown so you know what those comics are with images of the cover as well. I also bring you the biggest news that week in comic books. This week we're going to be talking about Marvel coming back to San Diego Comic-Con and me giving my top predictions and a couple Hail Marys of what I think that giant Marvel panel is going to be. Also, talking about Zack Snyder getting the Snyder Cut in theaters for the very first time, as well as finally a new Hellboy movie, which seemingly came out of nowhere, dropped a teaser this week, and all sorts of stuff about what we know of it so far. Before we get into all that news, let's check out my favorite comics from last week, the week of June 26th. This is This Week in Comics.
Let's do the list. Spider-Man.
Guilty.
The Incredible Hulk.
Afraid so.
Oh man, this is so cool. The X-Men.
Now that you mention it.
Alright, first up this week, we've got Anansi Boys #1. Now, this is a story written by Neil Gaiman, but this comic adapting that story is written by Mark Bernardin. Of the Fat Man Beyond podcast, a friend of mine, did such an incredible job with this Neil Gaiman story, man. I love Mark's work. I think he's a great writer, but it is not easy to adapt Neil Gaiman, and this book does a great job. It deals with, and this is a #1, so very approachable, you can never have read a comic before, a man who loses his father and then has a horrible relationship with him and then starts to uncover the reason why might be that his father was a trickster god. It paints the father in a very interesting light. He's charming, while even our protagonist doesn't like him. You see the charm in him. We like the protagonist right away, even though he's got a very gruff demeanor towards the way the story is going. It's really, really a very great book. Highly recommend, especially if you don't necessarily like cape stuff, but really like mysticism and magic and that whole world. Next up, we've got Animal Pound #4 from King and Gross. I've enjoyed this whole run. This is from Boom Studios, and they are a very consistent publisher. When they put their stamp of approval on something, it usually means something, and this run is no exception, but I have to say this issue is my favorite of Animal Pound. I've had this book nearly make the top 9 a number of times. I really liked the first issue. Second and third, I enjoyed it, but it didn't crack the top 9. This issue is one of the most ingenious, aggressive, angry, but in a cheeky way, well-written political comics I've read in years. I really love this issue. I don't want to give anything away because I enjoyed where it went, but I will say a character I wasn't expecting has been right in front of me the whole time, and I didn't see it coming, and then this issue made it all very clear. I love the cats and dogs story. I love the way the politics of this world just lined up in this issue. I love that I can't wait to reread 1 through 3. Now that this issue came out, this book is delightful, and this issue is the best of it so far, in my opinion. Highly recommend checking out Boom Studios' Animal Pound. Next up, and probably my book of the week, because I'm so happy it's back, it's Department of Truth, and it's Department of Truth issue 23, which is out this week, and I am so excited because we haven't had Department of Truth in months. I think it's been like 7 months since the last issue. This is from James Tynion IV, who has three books of my top 9 this week, which is just insane, and Martin Simmons on art, whose art absolutely makes this book sing. It is so dark and rich, and it gets under your skin like the story does. This is about the assassination of JFK. This is about how America is just a story that's being told by the people that live in it, how the more you believe in something, the more true it becomes in this world, how there's an entire organization founded, and this issue gets into the founding of it, to shape what reality is within the story of our reality. So the idea is that if enough people believe in something, say Sasquatch start to exist, this is an organization that tries to keep too much falsehoods from becoming reality. And there's other organizations that try to plant falsehoods and to flourish into reality. This is getting into the assassination and conspiracy of JFK. It stars Lee Harvey Oswald. It has a great cameo. I don't want to give away, not really a cameo, a supporting role introduced here. And the foundation of, we're getting new details into the foundation of the Department of Truth. I am so glad this book is back. Check this out from #1, but if you've never read a single issue, this is actually a decent jumping on point. They rediscover a lot of things well, and they re-explain a lot of things well. Check out issue 23, see if it's your cup of tea, then go right back to #1. Then we've got Gromit's #2. This is from Remender and Passain writing and Denisio on pencils, and this book is a slice of the 80s. This book is so much fun. It feels like hanging out with your friends. I was born 88. I don't really get to live the 80s, but a lot of movies I love are from that era. A lot of the pop culture I love is reminiscent of that time, whether through nostalgia or just watching it set during that time. But this issue in particular, I love the escalation of the friendship through skateboarding, but also girls are introduced, trying to impress girls. There's a great scene with like a security cop, like rent-a-cop, mall cop situation. And then the background in so many of these frames is just incredible details of the nostalgia of the 80s, of a bygone era. There's a very important scene that takes place at an OG Taco Bell. If you're living in a nostalgic phase of your life, but you don't want nostalgia just for nostalgia's sake, it's used really well here, and it enhances the comic. It doesn't rely on nostalgia, but it definitely weaponizes it for a really fun story. Love grommets. If you like slice of life comics, I could not recommend this one. It's only 2 issues in. Then we've got Penguin number 11 from King and Latour. We've got 3 James Tynion books this week, 2 Tom King books this week, and 2 Rick Remender books this week. These guys are absolutely crushing it. Tom King on Penguin, I have adored. Latour's art, I'm absolutely a fan upon discovering him with this book. I think I've seen his work in other stuff, but this is the first time I've been struck by the art to the point of looking at his other work. And this particular issue is such an action-packed issue. I said with issue 10, there's only 2 issues left of Penguin. It's either going to devolve quickly into everything falling apart, or Penguin's going to rise through the ranks quickly, and then there's going to be a giant battle with Batman. I'm not going to tell you which way it goes, but I love what happens in this issue. I love how it feels like we're wrapping up this Gotham saga. I love how Penguin has manipulated everyone, and how at the end of the last issue, the shoe dropped, and this is the consequences that are leading up to the final issue. Really like this. I really love the multiple perspectives and different types of speech, and how you can feel who you're reading the perspective of beyond just the font. This book is so good. I love Tom King's writing. On to Sacrificers number 9. Here's that other Rick Remender book with art by Fiumara. This book is about a world where if you sacrifice someone, it helps the gods be benevolent towards you. So this world has this basic rule where if you have a child, one of your children needs to be raised in order to be sacrificed. There's a certain age where it happens, and in this world, they're led to believe that the sacrifice is, not painful, and it's everyone wins and we're all happy. And obviously that's not the way it goes. And we have a character who was meant to be sacrificed, who had been raised in that, knowing that was their end. And then they discover the truth behind these sacrifices, and they reveal what the gods are. And there's this cascading series of events, these dominoes that fall. But there's also the guilt of the world's falling apart because this person wasn't sacrificed, and people blame them for not doing their part. And this issue is like righteous vengeance. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I don't want to give too much away, but this is the issue where there's comeuppance. This is the issue where vengeance is wrought, where our lead pigeon is taking back, their reality against the gods, and there's a battle with the gods. This book is so great. On to Something is Killing the Children, 38, another James Tynion, the 4th book. This one with art by Deladara, and this Deladara art is so captivating. With the other Tynion book I was talking about, Simmons on Department of Truth, it feels like you being trapped into a world where you're being corrupted and you can feel things manipulating in your mind. And this one is similar, but it feels like a dream state. It feels like a nightmare. This Deladara art is able to make you remember like dream states, but it tinges them in darkness and nightmares. And that's what the book feels like, because it's a world where children are being murdered by these monsters, and only the children can see them, and parents don't believe them, and you only can see them when you're being attacked. So this group of people starts training these kids to take them out, and generation after generation gets trained to take out these monsters. And this particular set of issues, there's like a 5-issue run, this arc, where it's our lead in an anthology series and her own little adventures, where each individual issue is its own self-contained story. So this issue 38, and as well as 36 and 37, and I think up until 40, are all anthology issues. So if this intrigues you, this world of monsters and the imagination and assassins, you can pick up just 38, see if it's for you. Loved this issue, loved the action, but I really loved the immediate character development, how much you cared about all these new characters that you literally just meet in this issue, plus our lead and her continued adventures. Love Something is Killing the Children. On to Void Rivals number 10. This is in the world of Transformers, and the Transformers elements really come to a head in this issue. This is from Robert Kirkman, who is responsible for The Walking Dead, who's also the writer behind Invincible, like one of the big independent writers in the world of comics, Robert Kirkman. And then the art by De Felici is so big and profound, and the scope is wonderful and cosmic. And this issue is so Transformers important. This whole book has been in the world of Transformers. The last few issues have really brought that to a head, but I love what they're doing with Energon here. I love that there's been something teased right in our faces this whole time, and you wouldn't know until you read this issue. if you like Transformers, if you like G.I. Joe, if you like Kirkman's work, Void Rivals is a must-read. Highly recommend you check it out, and this is a big, big, important tectonic shift of an issue. All right, we're going to break the rules this week, and we're actually going to do a top 10 because I love this issue as well. This would be the one, it will be the one that falls off of the graphic at the end, but this is World Tree number 11. This is the climax of this new arc. This is a lot of the mystery being solved. This deals with the Undernet. This is also by James Tynion, and I love his horror that he's built out of like technology, and I love the commentary on technology, and I love this idea of what we are without the internet and how we are a different species now that we have the internet. And the last issue and this issue are like this two-parter of the consequences of turning off the internet to save us and what we do to get it back. And I love this title. So this is an honorary. This would be number 10 out of my top 9. And my last book of my top 9 is Zatanna, Bring Down the House. This is a new DC Black Label book. This is another number 1 that you don't have to have read a comic at all. Just pick up this book. This is Zatanna, and I love this character so much. She doesn't get her own title enough. She's great in Team's books. She's great when she pops up in other things. She's great in the DC animated movies, but it's so good to see her here in her own book. And this is her origin. This is retelling her journey. This is discovering her powers and the character herself. There's so much goodness here. And again, very approachable book. So if you like Zatanna or you want to know about her, this book right here, delightful. All right, so those are my top 9 from last week, the week of June 26th. Let me know in the comments below if you read any of those, which of those you read, and how you liked them. I'm really curious. I want this, like I always say, the message board below, I want this to be like a comic store. I want the back of the comic store. What are you reading? What do you like? And what's going on? Especially if it's any of these, because I love these 9 books. So let me know in the comments below what you're checking out. And remember, at the end of this episode, I'll be previewing what books I'm picking up this week, the week of July 3rd. But before we get into that, let's talk about the news. We got word this week that Marvel is officially coming back to San Diego Comic-Con. Now, they weren't there last year because of the strike. They have missed some years because of D23 and trying to prioritize their own in-house con, but they're coming back, and I think this is very smart. Now, I think they're going to come back in a really big way because there has been a lot of optics on Marvel, and it's really tricky, and I don't want to be, I mean, inevitably I'm going to be called a shill anyway because I like things, but there's this conversation around Marvel where like, well, they lost the plot, they're dead, blah, blah, blah. 3 of last year's top 10 movies were superhero films, and the movies that people keep saying aren't good keep breaking records. It's just the conversation around these movies isn't as big. Doctor Strange 2 made nearly $1 billion. That wasn't my cup of tea as much as other Marvel films, but clearly it was a lot of people's. If you look at the releases, they're releasing as many hits as misses, but that's not Marvel. Marvel's usually like 3 out of 4, like, you know, just doing amazing numbers and amazing ratios. So I think the conversation's more about consistency than they're dead, because there will be off seasons, and I feel like Phase 4 has just been an off season. I don't think the conversation around superhero films has been fair. I do think there's a mediocre fatigue. I do think that unless things are very good, the idea that it's just good because it's a comic movie will not do anymore. There was about a decade where anything comic-y at least had a little bit of excitement just inherently because it was exciting to see comic things. That didn't mean they all did well, but it meant like, oh, we were interested. Like, oh, that's intriguing. I love these characters. Now, they need to be good movies, and they happen to have comic book characters. And I think Marvel is repositioning itself going into San Diego Comic-Con to kind of tighten up what they're doing. They went from releasing a ton of stuff and throwing spaghetti at the wall, and now it's like, okay, that's too much high volume, way too much content. So I think this Comic-Con isn't necessarily going to be their traditional, like, let's show our 10-year plan, let's map out things till 2034. At least I hope not, because that's, I think, what got us here. I think they need to focus on a few properties at a time. Don't set too many dates. Have untitled Marvel dates if you need to claim it on the calendar, but don't reveal too much. So what I think we're getting at this year's announcement, using Hall H as they do so well, I think we're getting the Fantastic Four on stage. They literally start filming the next day. So I think the Fantastic Four, maybe in costume, assemble on that stage and get on a plane to London and fly out of there directly from Comic-Con. And I think these are going to be in order of how likely. I think that's the most likely thing we're getting at San Diego Comic-Con. The next most likely thing I think we're going to get is some sort of Captain America 4 trailer. We've seen footage. We've seen teases. Back at D23, we saw some footage from a movie that I think is completely different now. Recently, we saw like a 30-second spot. We haven't gotten an actual trailer, and this comes out in February. So it's a little early traditionally for a trailer, but not by much. So I think we get a full-on Captain America 4 trailer, which I do think then gets released to the public, but I think the big in-room reveal is going to be Red Hulk. I think Harrison Ford as Red Hulk will be confirmed in some way, and that'll be the big reveal moment, but I can almost guarantee a Cap 4 trailer. Tying into all that is, of course, Thunderbolts. Harrison Ford is confirmed to be Ross and confirmed to be in Cap 4, but The Thunderbolts is called the Thunderbolts for a reason. Now, the Thunderbolts does have that little asterisk, and apparently it's not going to be Thunderbolts because of Thunderbolt Ross, which is its own conversation. I think it's going to eventually be called the Dark Avengers. I think the asterisk is because they're going to retitle it leading up to the release. I could totally be wrong. It's a tinfoil hat theory, but I do think Thunderbolt Ross ties into both of these, so I think that if they announce Harrison Ford and the Red Hulk element, I could see something being announced with the Thunderbolt story. Now, what I do think, and this is, remember, getting less and less likely, I do think we might get is a Sentry announcement. I think Pullman hasn't publicly spoken about being cast as Sentry, maybe in like a Josh Horowitz interview, but like a big announcement hasn't happened yet. So I think we get something, maybe the costume previs, maybe a scene. I think something with Sentry, because it has wrapped. Thunderbolts is wrapped. I think Sentry would be a really smart move for a Comic-Con audience. So Red Hulk for the big Cat 4 reveal, Sentry for the big Thunderbolts announcement, since these are the two properties that have been in production for so very long. And speaking of so very long, the least likely of the still most likely in my theories, something of Blade. I think we get some sort of Blade announcement. Maybe the crazy tinfoil hat theory would be that Jordan Peele is making Blade. I don't think so, but it would be awesome. It's possible. I'd like it, but I don't know if it's likely going to happen. But I do think we get some sort of Blade announcement because those three properties now are the biggest. Man, it's been 5 years, it's been quite the journey with Blade. So those conclude the likely announcements. My probably not, but oh man, it'd be awesome, are Avengers 5 confirmed and some sort of detail about what it's going to be, and announcing Sean Levy as the director. I could see this happening. I still think Secret Wars being Avengers 6 is the later down the line. Don't tell us too much, but I think Avengers 5 to get people back in the conversation. I think that could be an announcement they make. And with all the buzz around Deadpool and Wolverine and it being Deadpool and Wolverine weekend, I don't know if Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are going to be there. I don't know if, there's a Saturday Wrexham game in Canada, and I feel like Ryan Reynolds, it's his baby in his hometown. I think, he'll probably be there. But Sean Levy can be the presentation for Deadpool and Wolverine and then maybe announcing him Avengers 5. I could see that happening. Next of the probably not going to happen, but moderately possible, Shang-Chi 2. I could see some sort of announcement firming that up a bit, maybe setting a date, but I haven't heard anything in a while, and I do feel like that's something people really want from Phase 4, so it could come out of nowhere and be like, oh right, we can't wait for that. Shang-Chi 2 is possible. Now, I do think they're saving D23 for the TV announcement, so I think we could get an Agatha trailer just because of how soon it's out. I think we get like an Agatha teaser potentially in July, a full-on trailer at D23 in August, and then it comes out in like September, October. So maybe a little bit of TV in the form of Agatha, but I wouldn't expect a lot of TV. The other probably not going to happen because they're saving it for D23, Daredevil. I could see them bringing out Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio because if they're doing TV D23, movies Hall H, I could see them breaking that rule they've made for themselves with Daredevil, but I think that's the only one they'd likely do. Another project that's been delayed a long time, something else that's huge, arguably their tentpole show would be Daredevil, so I could see Hall H having those guys. Maybe a little bit of footage, having Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio come out would be enough. Maybe just a conversation with the two of them and Feige, but I'd love a little taste of the tone we're going to get, and I could see that possibly happening in Hall H. All right, and my 3 Hail Marys, I doubt it, but wow, it'd be awesome. Midnight Suns being confirmed, confirming Michael Giacchino as the director or anyone as the director, but Midnight Suns and maybe announcing the roster. This would feel a lot like the Thunderbolts did years ago, but again, don't want them to say too much and then, have to chase that date or whatever and rush the film. Could see Midnight Suns though. In that same vein, if they announce Blade and move forward there, it'd be insane to get a Ghost Rider announcement. I think casting Ghost Rider, bringing that person out on stage, much like Mahershala. But again, we haven't seen that movie and it was announced a long time ago. I think this would be their big casting announcement of the thing. Ryan Gosling's been rumored for a long time. I want Norman Reedus. But Ghost Rider would be an interesting announcement coming out of Hall H. And then finally, and this is the trickiest of all because we don't know what the new relationship is with Sony and Marvel. Usually Sony is responsible for the press and how things roll out. But again, there was a new deal made, maybe with D'Onofrio there, maybe we get some sort of Spider-Man announcement. That is the least likely. That is a 1 in a million, maybe 1 in 100,000. But it's not a likely thing because I do think Sony is going to want to run the press on that, and they crushed with No Way Home. It's not like Sony's not doing great with their Spider-Man-centric Spider-Man movies, but I don't know if because of the new setup and because Marvel wants some press and because of all the buzz we've heard about Spider-Man 4 lately, maybe this is the first time we do get some semblance of a Spider-Man announcement out of Hall H. I do think over at D23, we're getting the Spider-Man show announced. I do think we got a lot more on Ironheart and those shows, but I do think Hall H is likely going to be just Marvel movie-centric, with Daredevil being the possible exception and Agatha being, because it's so soon, those are the options. So what do you think we're getting out of Marvel's Hall H? Let me know in the comments below. Those are in order of most likely to least likely in my opinion. Let me know if I forgot anything. Let me know if there's anything you think they're going to announce, if there's any surprises, anything you want to see. Let me know in the comments below. And James Gunn said he's not going to Comic-Con because he's filming, but it would be interesting if DC does show up and we get some casting announcements, we get some director announcements. I don't know if they would or should without James Gunn. I think a big part of the showmanship of James Gunn is what's really beautiful about DC having a director that's also a showman, that's also a creator. I don't know if they should, but they might show up. I don't know if we'll know until next week when the San Diego Comic-Con slate comes out, but it'd be interesting if DC does try to have a rival panel to Marvel, since Marvel is coming back. Kind of doubt it, though. That's why I saved it for the end. I think that's the least likely thing. All right, let's talk about Hellboy. We got a new Hellboy teaser, and this movie I had heard rumblings about for a while, but it seems like the internet, this kind of came out of nowhere for them. This is directed by Brian Taylor, who did the Crank movies. This is a movie that looks way more horror-centric. Jack Casey stars as Hellboy. So we've had the Ron Perlman Hellboy movies, and Guillermo del Toro absolutely crushed. I want to give all my flowers there. I love those first two Hellboy movies. I want to take nothing away from those. But I do think Hellboy is a character that leans more horror, so I was intrigued by this trailer. There was also a David Harbour Hellboy movie like 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, 2019 I think it came out. It was a while ago. And I love David Harbour, and I love Hellboy, but David Harbour as Hellboy, that was the main thing I liked in that movie. I don't remember a lot of the movie, which is not a good sign, but I remember David Harbour being cast. I was excited. I remember seeing him and being like, oh, but the movie itself seems not so memorable, and I've not heard a lot more about it since. I saw it once in theaters and didn't revisit. I'm intrigued here. I think we've talked a lot about doing small budget, more independently minded movies, and with something like Hellboy, this is where to go. Make it a horror film. The Crooked Man is such a great comic book. Mike Mignola art is so tinged in that little bit of horror. So I think it's exciting to have someone like Brian Taylor make a smaller budget horror film. And I think it's really exciting to have this new world and new take. So as much, I love Ron Perlman. As much as all of those things are missed, that's a while ago. And I think if you're going to do a new Hellboy, making it a horror movie and making it this direction intrigues me. I haven't seen it. I don't know anything more about it. But this does intrigue me. The teaser had me interested, and again, I love Crooked Man, so if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. There is a new Hellboy coming. The teaser dropped. That's all we really know so far. I'm intrigued. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you want more Hellboy? Do you want this horror-centric take? And what do you think about the Crooked Man in general? It's one of my favorite Mike Mignola stories, and I love Mike Mignola. And the last bit of news we got this week is that the Snyder Cut is coming to theaters. Now, this doesn't have a lot of information behind it, but I'm excited. I think movies should be in theaters. I think movies should play in theaters for as long as possible, and then I think the streaming platform is a secondary home video-esque release platform that should happen 6 months later, because I love movie theaters. I want them to stay alive. I was genuinely bummed that the Snyder Cut didn't go to theaters because I ended up loving the Snyder Cut. I was worried for years that the Snyder Cut couldn't live up to people's expectations, and I personally see Superman and Batman differently than Zack Snyder, but I think Zack Snyder as a filmmaker and as a dude is fascinating. And I like Zack Snyder as a filmmaker and as a dude. We see the characters differently, fundamentally, but I love what the Snyder Cut is, even with those character adjustments in my mind being very different. I'm very excited to see this in this platform. I'm excited to see the Snyder Cut, hopefully with an intermission, because it's like 4 hours, on the big screen in all its grandeur. Snyder is a big movie director. Like, he makes things to scale for movie theaters. So this is really exciting to me. I haven't rewatched it since its first release and loved it. I'm really excited to see it in a theater, especially since it's been a couple of years. This news I just wanted to bring up because I was excited. And there's also people that are online like, well, the DCU coming out, why? Remember this one, or it's going to confuse people. I think people understand. Eminem had a song about Tobey Maguire come out today as of recording this. Yesterday, for people watching this. It doesn't mean Tom Holland is any less Spider-Man. It doesn't mean Andrew Garfield's any less Spider-Man. It doesn't confuse people that Tobey existed. The Snyder Universe is something that happened and ended, and I'm so excited of the DCU, but it doesn't mean I don't want to acknowledge what we had with the DCEU, especially one of my favorite properties in it, which was the Snyder Cut. So I think the movie never got its theatrical release. I think it deserves one. I'm excited to check it out. And again, people that hate me because of my thoughts on Superman and Batman being different than Snyder, I still like the filmmaker. I still like him as a dude, as a filmmaker. I still like the Snyder Cut. I'm just excited to also see how I see Superman next year. But in the meantime, yeah, give me the Snyder Cut in theaters. What do you guys think? Do you think it deserves a theatrical release? Are you going to be checking it out in theaters? Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Snyder Cut coming to a theater, hopefully near you. I know I'll be there. Now, let's talk about the comics in your comic shop today, July 3rd. First up, from Marvel Comics, the week of July 3rd, we're getting Amazing Spider-Man Annual for the year. We're getting Annihilation 2099, Black Panther Blood Hunt number 3. Nearing the conclusion of Blood Hunt, and Blade's been a very important character there, so I'm intrigued where this issue goes. Blood Hunters number 3. We've also got Deadpool number 4, Doctor Strange number 17, Life of Wolverine number 1. This is a new mini-series coming out of this big Wolverine reboot we're about to get, so this is a very approachable issue if you want to check out some Wolverine books. We've also got Miles Morales Spider-Man number 22. We've got Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu number 0, a new jumping on point if you want to check out some Moon Knight stuff. We got Spider-Man Reign number 2. This is the sequel to one of the most controversial Spider-Man stories of all time, written and illustrated by Kara Andrews, if I remember correctly, and it is the dystopian later on. Mary Jane dies in a very graphic way. It's a very dark story, and this is the sequel to it. We've also got Star Wars Inquisitors number 1. Again, good jumping on point. Star Wars The High Republic number 9. We've got Venom number 35, dealing with lots of symbiote stuff leading up to the Venom War coming late summer. Werewolf by Night Blood Hunt. Makes sense that Werewolf by Night would be involved in a vampire story. Wolverine Deep Cut number 1. How has there not been a comic called Wolverine Deep Cut yet? What a great way to tell like untold tales of Wolverine. We've also got X-Men Blood Hunt Psylocke. Love that character. Excited to see her place in the Blood Hunt story. Over from Image Comics, we've got All the Things We Didn't Do Last Night, number 1. Know nothing about this book except that it's an Image number 1, and I always check those out. And I really like Maria Lovett's Crave book that just ended recently. We've also got Bear, Pirate, Viking, Queen, number 3. Liked issue 1, loved issue 2, excited for issue 3. Free Agents number 1, same thing, a new number 1. I'm going to check it out. Gunslinger Spawn 33. My big book from Image for the week is, actually there's 2, but the first of them is the Holy Roller number 7. I love this book. It's written by Rick Remender and Andy Samberg. It involves a man who was special forces that came back to his town that's super ridden with Nazis, and he develops a superhero moniker that deals with bowling, and it's my jam. The Last Mermaid number 5, been loving this title so far. Local Man 11, also really great stuff, fun commentary on 90s comics. My other big book of the week from Image is Public Domain number 6. Chip Zdarsky writing a commentary on comics themselves and people getting their books adapted and what it becomes, and a very interesting commentary on comic culture, movie adaptation, TV adaptation, all that stuff. Chip Zdarsky is a genius, such a good writer. Radiant Black 29, as well as 29.5. Rogue Sun 20. Sam and Twitch Case Files number 4. Great Spawn spin-off book. Great side mission in the Spawn world. Savage Dragon 271. Scarlet number 2, continuing our Transformers Energon world and that blending with G.I. Joe. We've also got Scorched number 31 and The Walking Dead Deluxe number 91. Small week over at DC this week. Only 11 books over there. We've got Absolute Power number 1, Batman 150, big old book from Jorge Jimenez, as well as Chip Zdarsky, right in the Batman. We've got Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries number 7, Batman and Robin and Howard Summer Breakdown number 1. If you got kids, and if they like Batman, that and Howard series I hear is great, and it's a very all-ages book. We've also got Birds of Prey number 11, The Boy Wonder number 3. That's the opposite. That is a darker book in the world of Robin. That is a Black Label book that I'm enjoying so far. We've got Justice Society of America number 10, Kneel Before Zod number 7, My Adventures with Superman number 2. That is in the world of and continuing the story of the My Adventures with Superman show. So if you like the Jack Quaid voiced Clark Kent Superman show, this is taking place right between season 1 and 2. This is all in that world, so it's a great way to continue that story. We've also got Poison Ivy number 24. Love this Poison Ivy book, as well as Shazam number 13. And that is going to do it for the books I'm checking out the week of July 3rd. I am very excited to check those out. It is a smaller week because the giant week we had to close out June, plus as things accelerate towards Comic-Con, first week of July is traditionally a little smaller. This one's a little extra small, but those are the books I'm going to be checking out. Let me know what comics you're going to be reading, especially if it's any of those, or if there's any I missed from July 3rd, let me know in the comments below. Please do hit that like button. Let me know you like this video. Comic stuff, I say all the time, is so hard to get YouTube to push forward. So if you love comics and you want other people to see this, a like and a comment helps a lot. Please keep commenting, and the comic store world we've built in here. I love this community that's already started so very much. Please also, if you're new to this page, hit that subscription bell. Trying to grow this. We're approaching 27K. I want to hit 30K by Deadpool Day, which is in like 3.5 weeks. So it's ambitious, but I'm going to keep trying. So hit that subscription bell. Also, another reason to subscribe, it is Deadpool month on this page, so I'm going to be doing Deadpool comics to read before Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds movies to see before Deadpool and Wolverine, Wolverine comics to read, X-Men comics to read, Hugh Jackman movies to watch, Sean Levy movies to watch, an entire series dedicated to Deadpool and Wolverine, leading up to the review, leading up to the spoiler review, leading up to an Easter egg video. There's all sorts of Deadpool and Wolverine coming. Your homework for the week, you lovelies, is what is your favorite con memory? This is San Diego Comic-Con month. I'm going to be there all 5 days, Wednesday to Sunday. I'm going to be there the whole shebang. I want to know your favorite con memory, and if you're going this year, I hope to see you there. But let me know your favorite con memory below. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Much love. Bye.